One. Kyrie Irving's time with the Brooklyn Nets may be coming to an end. It appears that Brooklyn Nets and Kyrie Irving have gotten to a sort of standstill in regards to contract negotiations, and Brooklyn is hesitant to extend Kyrie for a long-term contract. And so it's very likely that Kyrie Irving is going to test free agency. And one of the teams on that list are the Los Angeles Lakers. The big concern, though, is how can the Lakers obtain Kyrie Irving? Because it doesn't really make a ton of sense to trade him for Westbrook if you're the Brooklyn Nets. Now, that's kind of the only option the Lakers have to see Kyrie in the purple and gold is to trade Westbrook for Kyrie Irving. And given that lack of assets and issues with contracts, it's going to be a little difficult road. Now, Kyrie Irving could help tremendously if he relays to the Brooklyn Nets that, hey, I only want to go to the Lakers. I want to reunite with LeBron. I have Anthony Davis there. I really believe that we can win a title in LA, and that's the spot that gives me the best chance. I fit in the best there because the other options, the other rumors are the Los Angeles Clippers, but I don't know how much Kyrie's going to fit there, given, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. Nobody on that team is really a huge willing passer. You don't really have a traditional point guard. You kind of have three guys that just kind of do the same thing and isolate. Not just that, I don't think the Clippers would want Kyrie Irving in a Clippers uniform, given that the fit just isn't very natural. And the other option that's being thrown out there is the New York Knicks, which the New York Knicks, I think, make a lot of sense as well. They also have a lot of mid-tier contracts that they could kind of go the route that the Lakers went with Russell Westbrook, right? Here are, 3 to 5 contracts that are all small that match the salary of this player. The Lakers no longer have that. And as much as the Knicks could make sense for Kyrie, do they really want Kyrie? Now, I did do a video diving into the potential of if Kyrie goes to the Knicks, then maybe Kevin Durant follows suit because Kevin Durant originally stated he wanted to go to the Knicks. So maybe if the Knicks can kind of work something out to where they get both of them, then I could see something along those lines happening. But if it's just for Kyrie Irving, does the Knicks really want to take that on? Maybe you get rid of some bad contracts, but do the Nets really want these bad contracts? And then you have Ben Simmons, a couple, maybe an Alex Burke, Evan Fournier, and then, you have your role players, Kevin Durant and Ben Simmons. I mean, maybe, but realistically, I don't think that they're going to want to just take Kyrie just for the sake of taking Kyrie. But who knows? I think the Lakers is the best option for Kyrie Irving if he isn't to stay at the Nets. Now, look, it's very likely that he could still return to the Nets, that this is just a leverage play, that he's just trying to kind of renegotiate and kind of build himself some leverage of look, I have no problems leaving elsewhere. I have no problems testing free agency. And then Kyrie Irving kind of uses the Lakers as a jumping off point to get a better contract. I think that is a huge possibility. But let's explore the options of the Lakers trading for Kyrie Irving. The issue and the reason beyond the Nets not wanting Russell Westbrook, right? Because as much as I think that Westbrook and Durant could work for a year, because you got to remember, Westbrook's money falls off the books at the end of the year. So Kevin Durant's only got to put up with Westbrook for a year. If it works and they're good and they like it, maybe you re-sign them on a lesser deal. If not, you have money to go get maybe a Bradley Beal or something like that to team up with Kevin Durant, and now you're contending once again. I think that is a great spot for them to be in. And last we heard, Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant had reconciled and that they were good. How good? Are they good enough to play? I don't know. But the big issue would be Ben Simmons and Russell Westbrook. You have two guys that can't really shoot, but could they make it work? I mean, Westbrook played with Steven Adams and stuff like that, so he's familiar with guys as such. And Westbrook wouldn't be the third option on the team kind of relegated to the corner. He'd be able to be more of Russell Westbrook with the Nets than he would be with the Lakers. But beyond that, the issue is if the Lakers sign and trade Kyrie and say Patty Mills for Westbrook because you need to have a close enough salary because Kyrie for Westbrook straight up doesn't really work. Lakers throw in some picks or something along those lines, then yeah, that's great, but you're hard capped. And it makes things so difficult for the Lakers to fill out the rest of the roster. And you may be able to argue that, Kyrie, LeBron, and Anthony Davis, if they're healthy, then who cares who else is on the roster, right? I mean, those three enough. If you're healthy in the playoffs, you're probably winning. But you still need guys. You still need guys that can defend. You still need guys that can hit open shots. There's still a lot of things that go into that just beyond those three, and it just makes things really difficult. Now, is it impossible? Could they still build a contender around these three? Absolutely. It's just, how do you alleviate that? How do you make that easier for you if you're the Los Angeles Lakers? Well, the only real option outside of a straight up sign and trade would be to get a third team involved. You'd have to get a third team involved that basically would take Russell Westbrook's contract, clearing up cap space, and then, those assets or pieces go to the Nets, and the Nets get some assets in that regard. So right off the bat, like, things that just come to mind would be like the Indiana Pacers trade, right? There was a lot of talks and a lot of smoke that usually when there's smoke, there's fire, leading to Russell Westbrook potentially being traded to the Indiana Pacers for Buddy Hield, Brogdon. Maybe you go something along those lines, and maybe the Nets are okay with a Brogdon and a Buddy Hield. Or maybe they just want Buddy Hield, but they don't want Brogdon. And maybe, if you're the Lakers, you throw in a THT and then you take on Brogdon. So you're actually getting, say Patty Mills, Brogdon, and Kyrie Irving. And you have a couple pieces going out. Obviously, your 2 draft picks are likely going to be involved. But, there's ways to orchestrate it. There's ways to work it out if you can get a third team involved. Russell Westbrook, one, would have to opt in, and thus it would be easy for them to trade. But also, you need Kyrie Irving to basically state that, I only want to go to the Lakers. Because anything revolving around that makes it really difficult. You need Kyrie to opt in. You do kind of a 3-team trade, so it's not a direct sign and trade, and now you're not hard capped. Maybe you can kind of wiggle another piece or two in, because maybe the Nets don't want 2 bad contracts for Kyrie, but they're willing to take Buddy Hield because he's a lights-out shooter. He can get hot. He can be a guy off the bench. Okay, we'll take him, and some other pieces, whatever, maybe a THT, maybe the Indiana Pacers throw in another contract. There's ways to make the salaries match, something along those lines. You can make it work with that. Another option would be, the Charlotte Hornets trade, which was another trade that was out there. If the Hornets really do want Westbrook for salary relief, a Jordan Brand guy, things along those lines, then maybe the Brooklyn Nets would take on a Terry Rozier and Albright or Hayward, something along those lines, and then they get those assets. Lakers throw a pick to Charlotte. Lakers throw a pick to the Brooklyn Nets. They get on Kyrie Irving. Again, there's ways to make it work. There's ways to make the trade fit. Maybe Lakers also throw in THT and we get a Plumlee, right? So maybe we get a Patty Mills, a Plumlee, and then a Kyrie Irving. So you get kind of that guy off the bench that can score, light it up. You get the center, an athletic center, to play next to Anthony Davis, who can spread the floor, things like that. He's hyper athletic. And then you get, Kyrie Irving to kind of fit. And now you get some pieces, so it makes it less of a burden to go and have to sign other guys. There's a lot of ways that you could go about it, but you need to find a team that would be willing to take on Westbrook. The other thing is maybe the Rockets. Maybe the Rockets would take on Westbrook. Maybe the Nets would rather have John Wall. Maybe John Wall is a better fit. So maybe you swap Westbrook for Wall. Wall goes to the Nets. The Nets send Kyrie and Patty. Again, there's options. But very likely, if the Lakers are going to trade for Kyrie Irving, the only real route is to trade Russell Westbrook. But beyond trading Russell Westbrook, you'd also have to very likely get a third team involved. Otherwise, you're hard capped. And again, that just makes things so very difficult. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I want to hear from you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. What do you think? What do you think is going to happen with Kyrie Irving? Do you think he stays in Brooklyn? Do you think he goes to the Lakers? Like I said, I think Clippers and Knicks, could be seriously in play. Obviously, if Kyrie is available, there are other teams that are likely going to get involved, that are going to try to trade for him. I don't think there's a huge market for Kyrie, though, if I'm being honest. But, we'll see. We'll see what develops. I just think the Lakers make the most sense and are the best fit personally. But would love to hear your thoughts and opinions on everything we talked about down in the comment section below. That being said, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot. Lets me know you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button, followed by the bell notification. Stay up to date with all things sports. Join this wonderful community and all of our discussions. I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you.